So Bitcoin and crypto, is this the bottom? Is this just a short-term bounce? Let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. Overall, this is a good bounce right here. Bitcoin needed that here over the past couple of weeks here. This is the weekly chart. Bitcoin has been straight down. And of course, for the first time in 2 years, broke below the 100 weekly EMA. And bounce to be expected here. Again, mean reversion, you do want that. But the key is this going to be the bottom? And so I would say right now, if you want to look at the stock market, which we won't stare at, there's not a lot of correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market for the fact that, yes, when the stock market goes down, Bitcoin goes down too, but the stock market has been pumping and Bitcoin has been down over the past few months since Q4. Now, I did make this chart earlier this week and basically just want to let you know that there's a lot of similarities between the previous cycle. It's not exactly the same, but again, we saw that Bitcoin ran up, had multiple pullbacks, kind of a double top. And, I put 6 here as kind of potentially where we could be at. Are we just in that continuous capitulation phase where Bitcoin will continue to pull back down, break below, and at least hit around the 68K, which is the 200 weekly EMA, which before the last cycle, it had always bounced there. Last time it bounced, it actually broke below there. But we did have the Three Arrows Capital, Luna, all that contagion play a big part. We're not going to have that this cycle. A lot of people are going to say this or that about Michael Saylor. Is that a contagion? And I wouldn't really worry too much about it, and you're going to hear stuff like quantum FUD and quantum computers and all this stuff. And I think that is just a narrative to go along with price. The point being is that people are taking profit. And I think that what you need to see here is a multi-month accumulation phase throughout the year in order to get back to new highs. And so while I don't think we're going to go as deep as we did last cycle we went around 78% from the all-time highs. This cycle, even breaking down from the high down here to the 268K is closer to like 45% to 50%. So even seeing a 45 to 50% bounce is pretty good, and that's what I have in here. And again, I just think that Bitcoin, with as mature of a market that it's been, we're not going to see any more of those 80% drawdowns. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to go lower, and I personally think that we'll hit below 70K here before the end of the year. And so what I'm saying here is right now, until proven otherwise, Bitcoin, when you buy the bounce of crypto, it's really trading it and selling the bounces. And so until proven otherwise, right? Because if Bitcoin cannot bounce here and break above kind of this previous area, and we'll even break it down on the daily chart here. If it can't break above this previous support that it was holding, hold this and continue to move on up, then really I want to sell this 85 to 87K, 86K area as a potential place where it will reject and then continue to kind of move on down. So just understand that that's what I'm watching for. I want to make sure that Bitcoin can actually break above this area and hold that. If not, then I'm expecting a rejection and then to continue to break down. If you look on the weekly chart overall, I mean, the bad thing about this, the structure, right, is that Bitcoin actually broke below it on the weekly. Now we're bouncing right now. We've got another 5 or 6 days until the weekly closes. And so in that time frame, Bitcoin can bounce up here and then reject and come back down. That would be an ugly candle. But what I'm trying to say is that, market structure breaking, it doesn't look good, though Bitcoin is due for a bounce. And just because it bounces here and goes back above, this could take multiple weeks to play out as well. So again, I think most people, you just have to be patient and understand that this is going to take time. Again, people aren't rushing to risk off assets, regardless of what's going to happen with the federal chair, Powell, and what's going on with that. We just do know that right now that Bitcoin not having a positive response, regardless of what stocks are doing, and you just have to play the chart and understand that this is the area that you want to sell. If you're just trading this, buying any crypto, so whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, Solana, or whatever you buy, based on this Bitcoin chart, if it can't break above this, just know that as Bitcoin, if it does pull back more, it's going to pull down the rest of crypto with it. And so whatever those prices are around this area is probably a good take profit for you. again, if this ends up breaking, holding, and moving back up, you can always buy back. But for me, I'm actually looking at this area as a potential take profit if we have a nice bounce here from 75K up to, say, 85, 86, maybe even as high as 87K. So that's what I'm watching, understanding that Bitcoin, again, is mimicking very much like the previous cycle. It's going to take some time to play out. I don't think you need to be in a rush. But if you are into Bitcoin long term, if you do see it as hard money, such as I do and a lot of people do, this is a great place to dollar cost average. And then when I mean dollar cost average, not to get into it, you don't have to spend a ton of money. Maybe it's $100 that you can actually put into Bitcoin that you can afford to invest and hold long term. Maybe that's something you're doing every week. It doesn't have to be thousands, but maybe it's hundreds or $50 every week that you can put in there, because just understanding that buying Bitcoin at an all-time high is not necessarily a great investment strategy, as it is buying Bitcoin that's already down, 40% from those highs. So if you can dollar cost average on a 40% dip, even if this goes lower long term, we do know cyclically that should play out to new highs, and that it's likely that Bitcoin runs up to over potentially $200,000 here over the next 4 years, potentially a lot more than that. I'm going to get into that speculation, but just understanding that this is probably a good place anywhere between this sub 80,000 to the 50,000 range is one of those areas where dollar cost averaging makes sense. But if you're trading this, again, not to get it too much longer into this, you want to make sure to look at the level above. Is that going to hold? Is it going to break above that, or is it going to reject? And based on that, they can probably tell you what's going to happen next. If it does reject off there, I'm expecting a move down here to at least this area around 68K or so. And we'll just see what it does from there. Again, this is just moving averages. A lot of this is self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to see a lot of people who probably buy at this area or front run it, and potential bounce here. And so I just think that you need to be patient long term. But a good bounce here. Let's see what Bitcoin does as far as the 86, 87K area, if that can hold, if it can break above. If it can, that's good news overall for the market, at least short term. And then we'll just take a look and see what stocks do, right? Because as far as stocks go, all-time highs, but that can change at any time because we are in a politically volatile time right now in the world. So again, based on that, based on what's happening, based on tariffs and other news, you never know when that's going to change. The important thing to know is that's why diversification matters. I think Bitcoin is one of the smartest investments you can make. Other cryptos as well too. In the right markets, even altcoins can make you a lot of money to stack more Bitcoin. But overall, to have some exposure to different stocks that are a positive, whether it's AI, robotics, or whatever, just to have some exposure to that as well as cash, not just all be in crypto, because as we've seen here in the last few years, that definitely has not paid off, as there's been a lot of stocks as well to go up. So that's just kind of a smart strategy, what I'm looking at when it comes to the markets. Anyways, hope this is helpful for you guys. Hope you guys are having a great day. We'll talk soon.